Hi, welcome back to Coffee Spills and Pineapple. Today's episode, my guest is Giacomo Ferrara, a journalist from Italy.
Thank you for the invitation. I'm glad to be here.
When I heard Italy, I got really excited because this is one of my favorite places in the world. But you don't live there anymore, or you haven't for the past how many years?
10. This
10
year will be
years.
10. In November will be 10 years. Yeah.
That's a fascinating journey that we will discover today. Hopefully, you will tell us more about the aspiration or the inspiration as well. How did you come up with this idea that I'm going to live outside of my hometown?
Actually, I've never imagined that one day I would have left my country. I consider myself as a teenager, uh, kind of nationalist in a good way, like someone who is really patriot. Yeah,
Yeah.
someone who is deeply in love with his land. All Italy always felt like, if I can say, pan-Italian, because my parents are from two very different parts of Italy. At a certain point, I kind of got a bit fed up with the environment. It happened also in a period of my life when I was traveling a lot around Europe, so maybe also this played a role. And it all happened due to basically the work environment I was working in back then. We're talking about around 2015, but you have to imagine that Italy is the only country in the whole Europe where salaries hasn't increased in the past 20 years. They actually decreased. Even, yeah, it's incredible to imagine. Also because when you go there, you see the lifestyle, the soul of the people. You don't see these things. Of course, I mean, my point were not these macroeconomic things. Was the fact that I experienced myself the dense situation. I mean, I was around 25 years old. This company offered me a promotion. The promotion was presented by back then, the director of the company. So he offered me to become his deputy for all the moments when he was on holiday, business trip, or out of office for whatever reason. And I felt very excited and proud. I was the last one who joined the company, and I was moving the fastest. I was like, whoa, I'm pretty cool, eh? So, but then when he presented the duties, and on the other side, what was that? The compensation. So I told him, look, let me think about it. Can I think about it a couple of weeks? Yeah, of course. I take some days off, so I will think about it. I don't dig too much into the fact that I had a contract that was unbearable in conditions, so it was officially prolongations, but practically I was there every day, 11, 12 hours, 6 days a week, so something like that, no? So anyway, decided to accept the invitation of a Hungarian friend. I knew him for a few years because he was pushing me every time. Oh, come to Hungary, visit me, visit me, visit me. Back then, I spent 2 days in my life in Budapest, maybe passing by it in a road trip to Romania. Okay, I knew zero about Hungary.
It was more like a tourist.
Yes, absolutely. But I never exaggerate. I barely knew how to place Hungary on the map, despite we are my hometown and Budapest are 600 kilometers.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So I visited this friend with no expectation, maybe just to take some days off. And I told him, look, I got this offer in Italy. I don't like it. I don't want to accept it. So I started to consider to move abroad. And he asked me about so abroad where, no? Honestly, I like places like Serbia, Bulgaria, Macedonia. Uh, at that time, I think I visited Macedonia 10 times already. Okay. I felt, I don't know, something in the vibe of people, okay, these Balkan people, something that I felt good about. Okay. In Italy, many, many years ago, journalists said that Balkans are not a place, are a state of mind, you know? So that's how we look at them in a way.
Frankly speaking, for me as someone from Armenian origin who lived in Canada for many, many years, all my visits to Italy and Spain, maybe also a little bit of France, but mostly Italy and Spain, I feel that state of mind. I think Italy and Spain and the Mediterranean is a way of being, living, eating. So I can imagine how the Balkans must have felt for you. Something that is inspiring, something that is different, something that is probably also new for you.
New, yes, even if I come from a border region, so let's say we have an experience, the Slavic, Southern Slavic world. But still, due to historical, political reasons, we have been divided for a long time. So if you ask to someone of my generation who comes from my region, there is a certain type of relationship. For my parents who experienced the Iron Curtain, is like the world ends there. Okay,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
they realized lately that there is another world. But anyway, back to how I ended up in Hungary. This Hungarian friend, because you have to know that I'm not saying anything bad, but Hungarians look a bit down to the Slavic world, So he told me, "Oh, come on, not those places. Those are not countries for you. Come to Budapest. It's plenty of Italians. Here you will find your place and stuff." And I told him, "Okay, so show me what
You
are,
listen to him.
yeah, show me what are the opportunities." And he started to tell me like, but Ronita, to have a CDs. Don't worry. It was back then, it was very trendy to have the pen drive always with you, no? He said, look, took out the pen drive, here's my CVs. And he was like a dot trick. He said, okay, tomorrow we find half an hour. So anyway, long story short, the day after we went to a Hungarian platform. We sent, I think, I think I applied to 5 different vacancies. 10 days after I was in Budapest, moved full.
Was the image making career sort of falling into your lap, or is this something you chose? You said, this is the kind of job I want because it tells the story, it helps people tell their story.
The job that I found in Budapest had nothing to do with that. So I really accepted the first offer. I didn't even know, because in Hungary they still don't have euro. So I even didn't know the amount that they offered me, how much it was in euro. No? So I didn't know, can I survive with that or not? So I said, accept the first thing that comes, because I want to bring something new, different, and challenge myself. How I ended up being an image consultant? You have to know I come from a town called Udine. Oh, no one mind from Udine when they will listen to this. If they
People will look it up on the map.
Yes, no. But I mean, by fellow citizens from Udine, I hope they will not get offended. But it's a place very cool, high lifestyle, but quite conservative. So when people ask you, okay, what job do you want to do? If you say policeman, doctor, teacher, what good? You say something like image consultant, stylist. Okay, but what is going to be your job?
What is the real job?
This one, I build the image of it. No, okay, but this is your hobby. But then what is going to be this one?
Yeah.
So, the environment was not really helping. But back then I started to be in contact with a very famous image consultant in Milano. We had a big age gap. So I'm talking about when I was around 16, 17, 18. So I was still in high school. And maybe because of this age gap, she felt some kind of sympathy, for someone so young who wants to take steps in her profession. She has been a pioneer, you can imagine, in Italy, And so I started to take some lessons from her. And at a certain point, I told her, look, but I wouldn't mind to do this. I feel it can be my thing. I feel it can be sure. What could I study to improve in this? She told me, Giacomo, you don't need to study anything. You are ready. Still, I was eluded in that environment. So it took me more than 10 years to then write the decision to move steps in that direction. Very slowly, and in the meantime, it grew. The number of friends who were sending me the pictures before to go out in the evening, these things. So we can say that I attracted that I built that job. When I realized that on a weekly basis, I had people asking me advice, I said, okay, I have to convert this into something more serious. I'm not going to charge my friends, but even if I can turn 10% of this request that I have into something more serious, still it works. I studied myself till a point, but by then I was already working as a stylist. I found a course, actually in Milano, branch of a French school. That's also a weird gap of my country. We're the country of food, of fashion, but these things are very spontaneous in a way, artistic. In France, these things are very well organized.
Formalized, yeah.
You want to become a shoemaker in France?
Yeah.
You, after the school, you have to go to all the masters of shoes around the country. Then you become master yourself. Okay. But after you did that path in Italy, you have to do it yourself. Okay, you have to be inspired by the country. Let's say. But so I always felt this need to have an education in what I was doing. It's my personal limit because I come from a family where that we see the piece of paper is important.
Yes.
Yeah.
But this is true, I guess, also generationally. I mean, my parents are from the Middle East, right? So my father's from Jordan, my mother's from Syria. So this is engraved, like having the piece of paper to prove that you actually are worth that much is very important. So I'm imagining also in Mediterranean Europe also, this is something.
Definitely. It's something that getting rid of easier, mm, but it really stayed in me for a long time. So imagine uh, I had this when I was already building the image, so the doggerma communication for former prime ministers, members of European Parliament or national parliaments. So I was already working on that level, and still I had in mind, but I don't have the piece of
But only have the paper. Yeah, the people in Udine will not think
Yeah,
that
recognize
it's a real job.
exactly. Exactly. So, and you know what is the funny thing? That at the end, I didn't take the piece of paper because it became some kind of pride after a while. So I did all the course, all the school, but not the exam.
Mm.
And the moment I decided, okay, I have to get rid of this, it was when the director of the school forgot that I didn't take the exam, and she called me to become a teacher of the school.
Oh,
But
so that proves the fact that you are so good at what you're
Yeah.
doing that even without the degree, you were offered a job in that same institution.
yes, and I didn't become teacher of that school because after a while she started to ask me questions regarding what I presented in the exam, and they said, "But don't you remember? I take the idea." And I was extremely happy. And in a way, I started to look with a bit of pity to this system that you need to have a paper not to be recognized in your profession, which honestly, if you're not a doctor or you don't do something no really specific, it's rather
Life-threatening jobs,
Necessary.
life-saving jobs.
So at the end, what I always say now when I see in whatever profession I dig into, look, maybe we deal with something very sensitive, very complex. We have to be careful, but we're not saving lives. Relax.
Yeah, yeah. So Udine, and you talked a little bit about the family, maybe cultural and traditions also, how people perceive things. So very quickly, you mentioned earlier that you have a big family. So what is a big family? How big is your family?
Well, so if we look at the, let's say, small family where I grew up, I had one brother, okay, who is older than me, and also this played a role because I saw a lot of things coming in and that. So
How much older? Just
14 years.
14 years older.
14 years.
Of course, you saw the
Yeah.
whole thing happening.
My mom's family, they were, because some, even majority passed away, they were 9 siblings.
9 siblings.
Yeah. My father's family, 6. So you can imagine a lot of cousins. They also have kids. And some of them, they already graduated from university. There is also who has kids. So you have to imagine, and the last of the two
The
families,
youngest.
the youngest, yes, of the two families.
So a birthday party is like a big wedding.
I would say that luckily we live in different places of Italy, so together all it's complicated. There is this big family environment. So as I told you, some of my aunts, uncles already passed away. My grandparents, of course.
I've come to this understanding that new branches of that family start because your parents become the grandparents and their lineage becomes that nucleus. If you're enjoying this episode, follow us on Spotify or subscribe to our YouTube channel. So you started with image making. Basically, this is something that inspired you, and you created visual storytelling because an image is that. You are a journalist now, and you're telling stories of places that a lot of people don't know. So you are a storyteller. Did that come from that big family? Was there somebody that inspired that?
The person I am nowadays, it's strongly influenced by my family. Even if I took a path that probably no one understands.
Sure.
Yeah. Regarding storytelling, I would say it's rather my father who has that approach. When he turns on in that mode, he's I would say, he's kind of silent person. Okay, so he's a man from south of Italy, as I told you, born in
Silent man from South
South of
Italy.
Italy.
Silent. That's rare, but yes.
Yeah, but you have to imagine it's don't picture it like it's nowadays. So he's from 1947, so immediately after the war. So he was a kid, grew up with a lot of siblings. At the age of 6, 7, you already have to go to work, and somehow you have to manage some year of schools next to it.
Sure.
So it's a different type of situation. But when he turns on that mode that he starts to tell a story, you don't know if he's actually telling you the truth or not. Whatever is funny.
I see.
There's a mountain,
Yeah,
but
that's good.
it's funny. And my mother, when she was to, let's say, offend me, she tells me, "You're like your father." Where he started to tell something
Like
like,
she doesn't know that that's a compliment, actually.
"Kid, like for me, like,
Yeah.
I don't like this, you know?"
Yeah, yeah. That's an interesting path because now, at some point, you left Hungary and you chose to become a journalist, which is maybe something more comprehensible or understandable to your friends and your family, because journalism is much older than, an image making, career path. So a journalist, and you're writing for Italian papers. You write in Italian and also English, right? Or just mostly Italian and
At the moment, I write here for Italian newspapers. I also have an online channel where I have a talk show in Italian, and end of last year, I opened also a channel in English where I actually show in real, let's say, voice. I mean, the authentic language in which I carry on interviews or on-field services. And mainly Italian is the activity. As you said, they understand a bit better, my friends and my family, what I'm doing because they see articles published.
yes.
I drop them a message tomorrow, buy this newspaper. They go buy, they see there is my name.
Yo,
Okay,
he's working.
he's working.
So do you have a paper for journalism? Did you go to school, university to get a degree, or is that also intuitive and just sort of self-taught?
Video journalism, intuitive. It's starting during the pandemic, like really as a game, a way to spend the time in lockdown, maybe. But then it turned something more serious, and when it started to be more demanding, I also decided to take it seriously. And because I was not really writing anything since high school, decided to take a course. So I took an executive master with the main Italian newspaper to somehow fill the gap. And I learned again the lesson that I thought I knew already, that papers are just papers. Because I was already using, regarding softwares, technology, same things that they use. I thought that they are using something that is like, oh, rocket science. They use the same services that you pay 10, 12 euro a month to have a simplified way to graphics, video editing. It's like, wow, but these guys, they sell 250,000 copies, and I use the same thing. So good for me.
Yeah.
But there let's say I felt what has been valuable for me is that there I understood that I can write still.
Writing is a skill. Also, I mean, obviously, it's a skill you develop, you work on. The more you write, the better you get. The more you read, the more different genres you are inspired by. I know that you are writing about the Caucasus. You did some coverage also in Russia or about Russia, the Georgian, I guess, revolution, and then the demonstrations, the protests that are happening. More recently, also the 110th anniversary of the Armenian genocide, and the region and the relations with Turkey and Azerbaijan. So it's a whole geopolitics to navigate. Given that there is so much information out there, information that sometimes is not real, it's not true. I mean, the more recent Azerbaijan's attempt to rewrite the Christian Armenians who lived in their territory, in their lands, and doing this in the Vatican, in a place that has Christian authority. There's a lot of rewriting and a lot of narratives that may be falsified or are probably falsified. How do you navigate through what is right, what is true, what is actual, and what is falsified?
That's a big question
We
because
can't always talk about the family. Now we have to talk about the
no, it's
religion also.
because it's something that I think about really on a daily basis. Really on a daily basis because now, as you know, journalism became my main activity. So I didn't drop the past fully, but I don't advertise it in order to have more time to focus on what I'm doing at the moment. Rather than what I should do, which, I know how much time I spend to write an article, okay? So the research there is before, beside the time of making the draft, rewriting.
Usually research takes more time than the actual
Yes.
writing.
Yes, it's maybe because I'm not doing this for 15 or 20 years, but I have to dedicate at least an entire day, to an article for a topic that I already understand. Okay. I rather think how we can give still a meaning to journalism because I see it all over the world, but I see it also in Italy. I don't want to talk about the freedom of the press, which in Italy exists, but we reached a level that is beyond. So, are journalists that are okay with aligning political parties, political point of view? So, every media is becoming a media of opinion, not about facts, which is a disaster. When I write, I always focus only on the facts. So things that no one can tell me, no, this is not true. No, this didn't happen. Of course, also in the facts, there is the way you present them, or if you present only one part of the fact, which is extremely common. But still, I try to be as neat as possible with all my cognitive bias because I'm Italian, I'm European, I have my opinions, I have a certain, how can I say, love for liberty. Okay, so this influences me when I write. But when I read the draft and I see that I wrote something that sounds too much my personal opinion, cut. Okay, so if behind that there is a fact, I try to rewrite it in a more neutral way. It is just your opinion. Doesn't matter. People are not interested in my opinion, or rather, I talk about topics that are not on the headlines of newspapers. They don't need my opinion. They need to know what happens in the attempt of appeasement between Turkey and Armenia, in the peace agreement will come, will not come between Armenia and Azerbaijan. They are interested to know if the current government in Tbilisi really has Russia behind. They are interested to know what Russians really think when they go to vote. So this thing is interesting. The opinions, how bad is Putin, if Paginian is genuine, is on point or not. They can hear it everywhere. They don't need me.
Journalistic ethics also should be applicable to those who are doing opinion pieces. And when you make an opinion, you have to make it known that this is your opinion. This is not necessarily a fact. For instance, for a long time, Fox News has been the leader of creating opinions as their mantra rather than presenting facts. They sort of tweak it, and it feels like this is the truth. That opinion becomes truth. And we see more and more populists using that model. It's like a playbill for them, a playbook where they can take that rhetoric. And I'm sure you've seen this in Hungary with Orban, you've seen this with Erdogan in Turkey, and the way even now Donald Trump today is using the rhetoric and the media manipulation, and to some extent dismissing a journalist just because they are from CNN, making it sound that they are not a real media that dismisses their legitimacy. So there's a whole ethical construct that the person giving that information has to implement on themselves Do you feel that that's a reality today?
Absolutely. I give you an example. It came out after Pope Francis passed away. Came out the picture of Donald Trump, generated with AI, him dressed like a pope, and he published it on his official channel, no, on X and Truth, I guess. I give you the example of Italy. Okay, so I saw that almost all newspapers condemned that, each of them for a different reason. But even those ones that are sympathizing for Trump, except one. One said, "Oh no, he's a genius. He had a great idea, provocative." I think you always have to remember what you're doing, because if I generate a picture of me with the AI where I look like the next pope, I send you. Maybe it's funny. Maybe you like it, don't like it, depends on your sensibility. But it's funny. I post it on my social media, but it's okay. Who cares? But you're the president of the United States. Now I'm not talking about you like Trump, you don't like Trump, his policies.
The position he has is the position of the most powerful person of the
Yeah.
most powerful country of today, more or less.
So it's really destroying all the pillars of our society. In theory, he is present himself like someone who defends conservative values. That move doesn't look like that. But on this, I mean, I criticize also the other side. I think Trump, like Orban, I don't want to go into Erdogan because it's already, I would say, another side of the world where things developed in a different way. But when in, let's say, call them proper democracies, people like that, erase, I think it's also the fault of the other side. So it means that we all, in previous years, decades, did some mistakes in the communications. Main media censoring certain positions. I told you I have an online talk show in Italian. I had live every Thursday. When I invite guests, they tell me, but I saw that previous week you invited this, why you give the microphone to those people? If someone spreads fake news or opinions that are, let's say, strongly debatable, take him on the screen, give him a microphone with someone else on the other side who can reply, and there you prove that those are fake news, that our opinions are based on fake news, cognitive bias, those things. If you censor, we live in a time of history where a lot of people will think why they don't let that person speak? They are hiding something, so they are part of the system, this thing. Maybe no, you're just someone who thinks it's better to do like that because you protect your audience.
There's suspicious.
Yes.
Skeptical.
Yes.
But also there's a limit to this, because then when you start allowing people that are kings and queens of manipulation, you allow them to manipulate the truth. You allow them to give their side of the story, if you want. Like the flat earthers will insist that the earth is flat without scientific proof, but they will insist that it's flat because so and so said it, so and so repeated it, and I've seen it on your podcast. So it becomes fact for them. And this is where the lines become blurred between allowing someone who has a different opinion and someone who refutes facts. So there's really like a balance that we would need to make when we say the other side. What is the other side?
That's the key, because to make this system work, what I told you, to have different opinions confronting each other. So you say, okay, but they will insist on that. The solution is exactly education. Because if you are a reasonably educated population, you hear something like that, you have no doubts.
And you can bring new facts. This is not, and you can do a study at your facts. Come back and say the earth is flat because so and so. And that's the debate. But not the fact that you think the earth is flat, and because you heard so and so say that it's flat, it becomes flat. So this is the difference between allowing people to have the mic and who those people are, if they don't have any ethics and they don't have a problem lying, in my opinion, they should not have a microphone. If they have, new theories, I'm more than happy to have that dialogue or listen to that dialogue and be educated myself. But the blurred lines have taken the world from facts to opinions, and opinions with populist peoples who yell things you want to hear have become more motivating to the general public because there's too much information, and the information I want to hear is the algorithmic information that I want to get. And then I am convinced that all this information I'm getting on my social feed is the truth. And that is where the blurred lines take us into where we are today around the world.
And we jump to another big issue, maybe one of the main of communication nowadays, the algorithm. So the fact that we all live in a bubble. If you open my Instagram, you see continuous post, except my close friends, post of crisis areas all over the world. Okay, so it's my feed on Instagram is a disaster from a certain point of view. But on the other hand, you open my YouTube, it's all about Italian football. And I want to give you the example about this because it's lighter, let's say. It's not simply about Italian football. It's Italian football, but mainly my favorite football team, in which channels that sympathize for the team say how bad the system of Italian league is against us, how other teams somehow steal us things, and you are in that bubble. I look at it because
And escape, perhaps?
so to be always a bit feel always connected to Italy, because I say that in Italy there is only one religion, and it's not Catholic religion, is football. You can change your faith in your religion in Italy, and people they might understand you. If you change your favorite football team, you lose respect.
Yeah.
So that's it makes me feel always a bit home. It's always the taste of home. But I'm aware of that because I know how those bubbles work. But I see that everyone is really in a bubble, and I think that the whole world look at that, all world think like that. So if you come with a different idea on whatever, it can be something in beauty. So the choice of makeup, now I go back to my previous. You're kind of public enemy if you disagree with what that bubble believes. So this is a real disaster. So if we put together the algorithms of social media, how media are becoming more and more like social media platforms. So the click on the title, the headline that is more intriguing, and how the education is decreasing in quality. This triangle is terrible. I was talking yesterday about this topic with a friend, and I said, what is the very risky outcome? That we will formally, in few years, still living in democracies, so on paper democracies, but at the end, we will not be citizens anymore. We will become again less aware. So on paper we are a democracy, but in practice we are not aware of the democracy. We don't realize nowadays that democracy, freedoms exist because each of us is responsible.
Recently, I'm reading about how our comfort, daily comfort, is giving away to the rights, and this is basically what we are ready to give up for the comfort. To have the food, the different TV, the channels that we want to watch our films, and isolation that's been created through the tech revolution. So everybody is isolated within their own, not just bubble, but within their own even persona. They're just one person, and they can chat online, have friends online, watch videos online, be entertained online, everything in the comfort of their living room, even work in their living room. So this is creating more individualism rather than a collective where you can, when you get sick, this online will not help you. You will still be by yourself in the living room. You want your neighbor, you want your colleague and your friend to come and be supportive and help. The whole AI revolution is going to, I think, even change mindset and create make those bubbles even harder, like to penetrate and get out of. So for me, that's what's coming. Um, because we are running out of time, and I also want to ask you about the important stuff for this podcast. So you know that we talk about coffee spills, and the coffee spills is the failures that we have in our lives. I don't like that word failure because that means it ends, right? Failures actually have a new beginning of something new or something continuous. So that's why I call them coffee spills. So what were the coffee spills so far in your life where you said, this didn't go the way I wanted it to go, or if I do this again, I'll do it differently.
Differently, I wouldn't say so because I would say something not very original, but I believe in what Steve Jobs said, connecting the dots. And when I heard that sentence for the first time, I was like, oh, okay, so usual US rhetoric. Yes, but in my life experience, then I realized this was really smart. I had a lot of little experiences in different fields that when I ended that activity for whatever reason, I was like, I spent my time doing something useless. Little example. I was working with a friend in a local TV channel in Rovina, and because of we had zero budget, so the TV said to my friend, "Okay, you can do the show you want, but I will not give you will have one cameraman. That's it. Don't test me anything." So I had to learn video editing. I started to watch TV and be conscious how they do the video editing. So I found the software to do it. I learned how to do it. I did it. After 2 years, that experience was over, and I was like, spent so much time editing, wasted. When I started to run my own channels, I could do everything
Yes.
by myself. Little example. So I wouldn't probably change anything. The only thing, it's rather an approach. So believe a bit more in my gut feeling. Okay, so like I feel that this is good. I think that men have a sixth sense. Maybe men a bit more than women. Women maybe more on an emotional level, if I may say. Men, they have it on the things that they have to pursue. And that's also suggestionary. Say, if you allow me, I want to live for everybody. If you have a feeling that there is, you feel pure that comes from inside, follow it. Don't care who is around. Who is around, if loves you, will understand somehow. You will lose some people, someone will remain, but that's the fundamental thing. So that's the thing that I would change. Follow earlier, because I always have the sensation that I'm late in age for what I'm doing.
You're 35, my friend. You're not late for
Yeah.
anything yet.
Yes. So that's it. Coffee spills. Well, I have a lot of things that I stopped doing, and it looked, we can say, like a failure at the beginning. Again, we go back to the conservative family. So you stop this activity. So you don't bring at its end anything. Yeah, but what is the end of an activity? No, coming from an environment where you do the same job for a lifetime, if after 5 years you interrupt something you are doing, like it's bad. It's really bad. What is the pineapple? That if
But
you
before we go to the pineapple, what is the coffee spills for you? Because now you talked about the coffee spills that others perceive.
Yeah.
But you must have experienced something that, this didn't work. I wanted this, but it didn't work. Or you changed it, you modified it so it becomes what you want, right? Because once the coffee spills, you can clean it, you can make a new coffee, or you can have some tea, which is something completely different.
in professional life, I wouldn't say that I had this feeling. In private life, I had a lot. Actually, if you don't mind, I tell you about the rather relationship. Okay.
Sure.
There I felt it. I felt it, changing country. You also have to change the way you approach potential partners, and you realize how certain behaviors of yours, they are rather cultural, maybe they don't really belong you. Okay, or only partly belong you. In that, I became, I think, let's say, a better partner through several coffee spilled. Yes, so believing that I was doing the right thing, but it was just coming from my cultural mindset.
Your upbringing, and so on.
Yes, pineapple is that I kind of learned what Giacomo really means, in this case in a relationship, and I did it putting together all those spills, and nowadays I into type also people because of this or the failures that I would have never imagined before. And it was just because I brought myself, thanks to those spills, out of my comfort zone, and I started to really meet people that before I could have never imagined to match with, to get along with.
There was a line that I read in one of your documents that says, I want to live the experiences that others read in their books.
Yes.
I just found that really poignant, and I think it resonates with me. You know, I love traveling, but besides traveling, I love to live and soak into the experience of that place. I've lived in Canada, I've lived in Armenia, I grew up in Kuwait. So like a really big difference and everything in between. So Spain has sort of become my go-to place. So is Italy. So as I mentioned earlier, I feel very comfortable there culturally, you know, even political mindset of people, a mix of conservative and modernism. So I just feel like these places speak to me, and the experiences that I feel in these places, and, you know, through people that only read about this, friends, family in Canada that are only reading about this. There are many quotes around the world from so many people that said, but you put this under your name. Why?
Well, because I realized on my own skin was the difference between knowing something about the place and even events of the place and being there, talking to people, talking with the protagonist, and also living the everyday life. Several of my colleagues go in places, they stay 3 days, 4 days, maximum a week, 10 days, and that's it. They come back and with their filters, they write about it. Me, I like to be a guest rather than a tourist, so I stay in places 2 months or more, as much as the local laws allow, of course, because I want to live in the apartments where locals live. I want to go grocery where people who are experiencing that fact that for me is somehow historical are going. So I want to eat their food. I think in my time in Armenia, I ate pasta and pizza 4 times maybe. And you're talking about roughly 2 months and a half, 3. Okay. So because I want to eat
But we have a lot of
Talma,
pizza places.
arista, sì, but I eat arista rather than pasta. I eat talma, shashlik. This is just to tell you that I want to be immersed in the place, and this approach made me understand much better what is going on. I realize it when I write an article. I always add something that it's really first hand. A lot of my colleagues underestimate, but to you as a reader, you really the taste of the place. Okay, so I give you a practical example. When I was in Tbilisi, I went there several times because the protests are ongoing for a year now. And I realized that there are a lot of Russians who moved to Tbilisi and they go to the protest. They protest against their own government back home, but also against the pro-Russian government that is in Georgia. And I was kind of used, with Italian to look at this because we revealed that there is no opposition in Russia, no? And so I asked to the Georgian activist, but it's cool, no? What do you think about it? Yeah, it's cool, but they would be of a better support if they would go back to Moscow, St. Petersburg to protest against their government. I'm like, wow, that's tough. And I thought, okay, maybe they are activists. You talk with other people, they tell you the same. I interviewed the former president, Zuravishvili. She fundamentally told me the same. He's published on my channel. I put that in the article after the interview. Those are 2 lines, but that's what give you the text beyond the list of facts that I mentioned already. So when you're on the place, you really know what is happening and you can communicate it to the others. Otherwise, I can stay easily home and in front of the screen and check the press releases that they come out literally every second from all over the world and write out of that doctor.
I'm really happy to have you here in Armenia on my podcast, and I would like to continue this conversation even after this podcast. It was very enlightening. Thank you so much. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. Thanks to you and your team for the invitation.
If you enjoyed this episode and would like to support us, follow us on Spotify or subscribe to the YouTube channel to learn more about the creatives from around the world who inspire us with their stories. Coffee spills and pineapples. See you in the next episode.